All right, the first section we want to go into, we want to talk about prototype daggers because that's where it all began. The dagger that you're looking at on the screen, it's an early Holbein dagger that comes from the 1700s, and we know that in April of 1933, Hitler had come into power in January. Zolligan representatives visited Hitler, actually it was on his birthday, and gave him an elaborate gift letter opener. The delegation asked Hitler if he would consider equipping the paramilitary SA and SS with traditionally designed edged weapons. They told him of the unemployment and Zolligan experienced since the end of the Great War, then through the inflation of the early, turn them phones off. Steve Flood here. Then the inflation of the early 1920s, and finally they explained about how the Depression had hit Zolligan after 1929. Zolligan had a population of 110,000 people with 23,000 workers idled. So Hitler listened to all this and he was anxious to spur employment wherever possible, and a ceremonial dagger for his SA greatly appealed to him. It was not a weapon per se, because Hitler did not approve of the SA having arms. In fact, that was one of the problems with he and Rome. Yet he knew that the dagger would appeal to the esprit de corps of the men, and it would also help to calm some of Rome's misgivings because he would get credit for these daggers, and Hitler basically put Rome in charge of the process. So he heartily endorsed the idea, and they needed an appropriate design for the dagger. So this was given to Professor Wilna of the Zolligan Trade School, and the design was to be based on the Holbein type dagger, what you see here. And it's pretty obvious that that looks like an SA grip and SA crossguards, as well as the shape of the scabbard and also the blade. So this particular piece was picked out by Hermann Goering. Apparently there was an example in the Deutsche Museum, which was in Munich. The design, it invoked glories of the Teutonic past, and the design was personally improved by Hitler in the summer of 1933. Now we call the SA dagger a Model 33, but in effect it didn't appear till 1934, but we'll explain that. But this started the process. You need to build prototypes before a weapon can be manufactured. So the next slide, that's another Holbein, and again, I mean, it almost looks like an SA honor dagger, if you know what I mean. Same grip, same blade shape, and so forth. So that's obviously what the SA was based on. Now in the next plate, we're going to talk about the construction of the prototype daggers. Now there were two firms that were chosen to produce these daggers. They were EPAC and Carl Eichhorn. I often wonder why WKC was not chosen, because they were probably the biggest imperial producer. But actually WKC had gone through a bankruptcy in 1930 and probably was not in the shape to take something like this on. And for you guys that do collect SAs, you'll know that you don't see very many early WKC SA daggers. But at any rate, on these pieces, the two examples on the ends are made by PAC. The piece in the middle is made by Eichhorn. We'll go to the next slide. The PAC pieces, they both have the so-called pointed eagle. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Can you hear me in the back? Yes, sir. They have the so-called pointed eagle, which is a 1929 party eagle, and it's retained in the grip by a small brad. There we can see that. Now this design was very, very complicated to inlay into the grip. Just imagine trying to cut all this out around this head with the beak, and then swirl around the wings, come down, and then make a further cut down in here, And then the swastika was large, as well as the cutting out of around the legs. So they were produced this way, but it will change as we go further in the next slide. There's a close-up of the eagle. See what I'm talking about here? They had to fill in that spot because it was nearly impossible to do the inlay. You see that? See the nail here that retains it? Okay, the next slide. Now, in this piece, we're looking at the close-up of the Eichhorn eagle. It is the exact same 1929 bird, except Eichhorn retained the eagle in a different way. Also, there is no pin, no insignia, no nothing that was made in this same shape and size as this bird. It's a totally unique insignia. So if you see any of these so-called pointed daggers being sold, and that bird is not exactly like what we see here, it's fake. And most of them you see, quite honestly, are fake. Okay, again, you can see how Eichhorn also had to fill in the area around the heads. Now, on the next plate, this is an X-ray that I had my dentist take of the Eichhorn prototype. It's kind of hard to see what it is, but picture this is the wings of the eagle, this is the swaz going around, and this is in other words, this is the front of the piece. What you see back here is a prong that was added to the reverse of the Eichhorn eagle, so that their particular bird was held by a prong. So, if you get an Eichhorn dagger and it's got a nail between the legs, what do you think? No good, right? So this kind of stuff is really important, except all the repro guys are going to find out about it too, and that's the thing. But we should know what we're looking at, and these things are so rare that this may be the opportunity that you'll really ever see one of these prototypes. The two that we're showing, incidentally, one is owned by Dave Hohas, who's around here, he's over there. Hi, Dave. And the other one is mine, and you're welcome. We brought both of them with us, and you're welcome to look at them at the end of the seminar. Okay, where are we here? John, the next slide. When you look into the cross guards of the prototypes, you can see they're basically the same as what you're used to looking at. But both of them are, my example is numbered with two S's, one on top of each other on both cross guards. Okay, go a little closer, John. There you go, see the two S's? Okay, and in the next slide, John, this piece is Dave Hohas's, and there's either two zeros or two O's. Since mine is numbered with letters, it may be that Dave's is also letters, but there's really no way to tell that or what they actually mean. Okay, the next slide. This is the back end of Dave Hohas's prototype. It's the pack piece, as you can see. All prototypes were full room inscriptions. They all, since Rome was in charge, he wanted to have them all made that way. And while I'm on the topic, when we go into actual dagger production, the people who were entitled to the Rome dagger were to receive those first. And the recipients did not pay for their Rome daggers either. They were free. So it was a very important thing to Rome to do this right. Okay, on the next slide. This is mine. It's a little messed up here. Somebody peed on it or something years ago. You know what that'll do to a dagger. But you can see there's the pack logo, and you can see the signs of where the Roman inscription was ground off. Okay, and the next slide. This is the Eichhorn trademark, and that'll probably surprise the hell out of everybody. We think of this mark as a 20s mark. And Tom Johnson told me a long time ago that he spoke with Eichhorn employees, and they said they used a lot of different marks. There was really no set in stone mark that was used. So here we are, this single oval serrated tail squirrel, and the CE underneath I've had Hitler Youth knives with that mark on it, and everybody says, they must have issued Hitler Youth knives in the 20s. Not necessarily. The real early ones, probably in the 1934 period, had that trademark. Okay, next slide. This is the Eichhorn prototype. You can see the cross guards are pretty much the same. Scabbard mounts are pretty much the same. One of the big problems here that's not the same is they made the thing out of copper. The shell is made out of copper. And it was way too soft to be, and this is why you have prototypes to test the material and see how it works. Obviously, the Eichhorn product did not work so good. If you got home at night and hung that up on the wall, you sure wouldn't want to feel like eating dinner. So, and another thing, I told you they were all Rome daggers. Notice the tip is broken off. I don't know how many Rome daggers I've seen over the years that still have the total Rome inscription on it and the tip broken off. Anybody know why that is?
Beer hall.
Beer hall. No, it was a form of classic traditional disgrace. Break the tip off the dagger. So you'll see this a lot. I have a Navy Honor dagger that the blade's broken in half. Real shame, but that's what they did. Okay, let's see. We're looking at the Eichhorn scabbard next to Dave Hohaus's scabbard. You can see that Hohaus's scabbard is basically the same that you'll see in the production, but we'll go to the next slide. This is Wittmann's prototype, and the back of the scabbard is stamped with a number, whether it's an Ausweis number, an SA number, a party number, I don't know, but there it is, and they banged the hell out of it too. There was no nonsense with that number. Okay, next slide. This is Wittmann's dagger. If you guys that know pack fittings, it's interesting. You'll see about 50% of the pack daggers, the production daggers, that have a shorter top fitting than others. And my prototype has the short top fitting. Hohaus's has a standard fitting. And also what's of interest here is that the hanger that was worn with the prototype dagger is checkered, and it's much heavier duty on the snap clip. See that? Okay, next slide, John. This is the Eichhorn prototype from the reverse, or the obverse. You see the wrinkled up scabbard, but you'll also see the Alles für Deutschland is used in the early font. We call it the small A font, and the letters are formed differently than they are later. And we'll show you what I'm talking about here. On the next one, John. Okay, here we see, this is the early font here. This is the Eichhorn prototype. There were some daggers that were made by Eichhorn, standard daggers that were made first off, that had these early small A mottos on them. And every once in a while, when you're just looking through a dagger, you never know, you could come across one of those things, and they'll bring about $8,000. So it's worth looking at every essay that they're only made by Eichhorn, and they have the big oval trademark on them. So, next one, John. There you can see a real good, that's what the early A, small A font looked like, and this is the standard font that they adopted. I don't know why they changed. It probably was some bitching from an etcher. Okay, next slide. All right, this is really going to show you here why they changed eagles. Remember what I was telling you about all these angles and crap that they had to go around and all? And then look at what the conventional eagle was. See how they put the round metal behind the eagle's head? So no more filling in. Same thing with the wings, although that was no picnic either. It still chipped a little bit. And remember too, these things were made to look at with the naked eye. We're all walking around with these loops and all, this has got, you know, that was not the way they were produced. And really, I'm serious about that. I hate that when people come up and I say, hey, if I looked at your nose through a loop like that, it wouldn't look so good either. I mean, I hate that stuff. But anyhow, but you can see, and then they reduce the size of the swastika. You know, it's all making things easier, because remember, the first order for SA daggers, February 4th, 1934, the first order was 1 million daggers, and they wanted them ready in April. How the hell do you do that? It's just amazing. Okay, here we have, this is one of my favorite pictures. You guys remember Vic Deal? Poor Vic, he passed last year, but he was a great guy, and this is a picture that Vic turned up. Excuse me. The fine-looking, pleasant fellow there that's wearing this dagger, his name was Oberfuhrer Meyer Quaid, and you can see he's wearing a prototype. When you study the picture, you do need a loop for this. You can see the eagle in it, and you can see the right hanger, and you can also, this guy was, he went to the Führerschule, and there's his 1929 Nuremberg badge. A lot of Nazi officials wore that badge because in the 1929 Nuremberg rallies, it was the first time that any of the industrialists were starting to give big money to the party. So it really meant a lot. So anyhow, give me the close-up, John. There, you can really see that pointed eagle. You can really see that alligator-type clip. And if you use your imagination a little bit, I think there's a nail between the legs. So I do think it's a, well, we shouldn't be talking about what's between his legs. Next one. This is the National Education Minister, Roost. I think most people know his name. And he's also wearing a prototype. What happened here, they probably made about 24 of these prototypes, and they gave them to Brigadeführers and SA generals to wear and see how they liked them, what kind of comments they would get. And they gave these to the SA generals on December 15th, 1933. And this is why the name Christmas dagger has been given to these things. Okay? Next slide. There's a close-up of Roost's hanger, and you can see it's a pointed eagle. Here again, just to show the hanger that was worn with it. And in the next slide, just one more picture. If you noticed, all these guys are top generals that are wearing these. This guy was, his name was Schammer von Osten. He was the Reich sports minister, and also an SA Führer. See the dagger? Unmistakable, the prototype Christmas dagger. So, obviously the prototypes were well received, and the orders for the first daggers were given January 13th, 1934. And as I told you, it was for 1 million daggers. Well, I just can't even imagine what that is. No computers, no robots, no assembly lines, just a bunch of guys that were trained for years by their fathers, whose fathers were trained for years by their fathers. I mean, it must have been an amazing thing for that small little city. I've been to Soligan only once. Tom Johnson's been there 150 times, but I learned a lot in just the one time I was there. But the daggers were to be based on the prototypes, except for the minor changes that we've noticed. And they were to be produced only in part in Soligan. Rome had insisted that all of Germany share in the work. So this is why you see these daggers with trademarks you may not have seen before. Broderrod, Tuttlingen, Schmalkalden, Esslingen, Steinbach, Schwein, Deggendorf, Gefries, Bayreuth, Berlin, and even others. This was so that all of Germany could share in the work. Obviously, Solingen got the lion's share. I mean, they were set up for it, and they also had the political contacts and so forth to make sure that they... but there you are with this initial order. By March, nearly all of the 20,000, 23,000 unemployed were back to work. So it was a great thing. So that's the prototypes. Anybody have any questions on those? I don't want to take too much time because we got a lot to... Okay, fine. I probably talked it to death, didn't I?
You want some water, Tom?
No, I'm okay. All right, I want to go briefly into the manufacturing processes. Many collectors have no idea what went into producing these daggers. Before I start with it, I want to address the fact that many people think that each firm that you see with a trademark on the back of the blade, that they made that dagger. They did not. Some of the firms probably never even touched it other than distribute it. There were many companies that did work in Solingen to put all these pieces together. There were many different craftsmen, many small shops, cottage industries, and lots of craftsmen that specialized in specific tasks. And like I say, some producers hardly touched the product until it was ready for delivery. And the next slide, John. This, I found this contract. I found an old book. It was like from the Solingen trade industry. And inside of the book was stuffed over 200 Solingen producers on three type sheets of paper. And there was also this contract. And the contract it's really, I don't want to bore you with the whole thing, but it's interesting. It's signed, what's that date, John? 24 February, is that it? 26 February 1934. And it's between the Solingen industrial industry or whatever. And this contract was with an etcher. And his name was Ernst Adams. Now, etchers, of course, they were in charge of doing the SA motto, the trademark, a Rome inscription, if it were on the back, needed on the back of the blade. So this man, he was qualified to do this etching, and the fee to be a member of the etching group, those fees are on there. It was 17 Reichsmarks if you were an etcher that did the mottos and the maker marks, and if you also did the Rome inscription, which it says right here, if you did the Rome inscription, it was an additional 6 marks. This was probably a yearly fee that was that you had to pay to be a member. And the contract goes on to really say some serious stuff. You have to compensate your workers properly for their skills, compliance to the prescribed form of quality requirements, avoidance of unnecessary machine fabrication, preferable using highest quality manual labor. So, unions haven't changed, it seems like. If they could put the work to the man and forget the machine, that was by far the best. So it was even in Solingen. So Adams down here, where he signs it, Ernst Adams, he binds himself unconditionally to Solingen's Court of Honor, and he acknowledges that non-compliance will result in termination without notice. I love that, the way Germans do that stuff. There's no black or white. I mean, it's black or white, it's not, no gray area. That's it. No notice, you screwed up, you're out. So, he further pledges to put common interest before self-interest. In other words, they were interested in the well-being of all the other guilds. It also illustrates the commitment of the Solingen craftsmen and is a testament of how wonderful work was accomplished by these artisans. You can see that they really took this stuff seriously. Okay, enough about that. I want to talk about how blades were made. I pirated this picture from one of Tom Johnson's books. I think it was volume 6 or volume 7. what you're looking at here are drop forges. This is one here, and this is one here, one down here. There's a die on this end of the machine, and up at the top that's out of the picture is another die. And they would put a piece of steel called a blank in between these two dies and drop this thing down and slam it onto the metal, and that created a blade blank. Next slide, John. Those are the blanks that they put under the drop forges. Next slide, John. That's what a blade looked like when it came out of the forge. There's the tang, there's the center ridge, these are the edges coming to a point. So, you needed somebody to trim all these edges. So there were workers that, remember you had to make 1 million of these in 2 months. There were workers that were trimming the edges, and then what's that look like, John? Let's see that slide. There you go. That's what the blade looked like after the edges were trimmed. Now the next problem is it has to go to the grinder. In other words, a blade has to have a surface on it. Now before we get to that, there were 17 firms that specialized in drop forging. Another thing, all of these makers certainly did not have those big drop forge machines. Only the very large companies had them. There were 17 firms that did, and a few of them, Pack, Hemisphere, Henkel's, Wingen, Herder, Lunerschloss, Eichhorn, Robert Klaas. The forges that we saw, the drop forges we saw on the other slide, were out of the Eichhorn factory. Okay, now on what I'm showing here with cross guards, I wanted to well, before I get that, let's just say that for what it's worth, one worker could forge 1,000 blades a day, slamming that thing 1,000. I mean, that's pretty good production for one worker. Pack Company had 14 drop forges. So theoretically, they had at least 14 of those guys doing this work. A set of dies in one of the drop forges, it would last for about 20,000 blades after that new dies had to be put in. And again, that's more work because there's people that had to make those dies, you know. Think of the people that must have made wooden crates and things like that to shuffle all this stuff around. It must have been a tremendous amount of work that was created. So we go to cross guards next. Cross guards were cast. They were done in sand casts, and you guys all know what the inside of a cross guard looks like. Well, that's what the outside of the cross guard looked like when it came out of the sand cast. So every one of those cross guards had to be polished, and that was a big job. I mean, you know how nice a nickel-silver cross guard looks. That was a lot of work. And then they also had to put the accent grooves in cross guards. And one of the first things I always look at on an SA dagger is accent grooves. I love accent grooves because they're all different. These are made by Eichhorn. You can always tell Eichhorn accent grooves because they went through the trouble to bring them all the way over the edge. You see that? These are shitty ones here that somebody made. They're not done very well, and that's not real quality. But you see it, and it is real. But it's not what we think of as, wow, this is a nice dagger. Okay, the next slide. Here again, this is the Eichhorn crossguard. See how nice that's formed and slides over the edge there? This one here is also great. It's one that's made in the Sewell area. 3 companies in Sewell, J.P. Sauer, Wilhelm Kolber, and Haenel. All 3 of them, the crossguards were exactly the same, the grips were exactly the same, the blades were exactly the same. Everything was the same because they all cooperated with each other. They were all in the weapons industry. And if you look at the accent grooves on those Haenel guards, you can just imagine them. Don't they look like what you would see on a pistol, on a trigger? It's the same kind of quality. If you get used to looking at stuff like that, it's amazing how quick you can tell that somebody's trying to screw you. You know, because you should see that if the blade says Sewell on it, you want to see Sewell crossguards on it. And incidentally, they're all uniquely shaped too. They have a unique upward passage to them. So, let's see. Where are we, John? Plate 31. All right, we did that. All right, yeah, this is just crap here. The lower fitting is nickel silver. You can see that because it has kind of a dull color to it. And the upper fitting is what they used later after the RCM started coming into play. That's a zinc crossguard that had nickel plating on it. You can still see the little bits of nickel there. I used one that was in lousy condition, so you could see that. Okay, now about nickel silver. Before we go to 32, nickel silver. It's hard to believe, but it doesn't have any silver in it at all. None. Nothing. It was first used by the Germans in 1923, and it was based on an alloy that the Chinese invented, but the Germans somehow stole the formula and invented it themselves. And nickel silver is 60% copper, 20% nickel, and 20% zinc. Later, when the RCM came into play, the crossguards were made of 96% zinc, 4% aluminum, and they were die cast as opposed to being sand cast. With die casting, the molten metal is put into a steel form, and then when it cools, it's knocked out with an ejector, and that's why you see those little circles. You know what I mean? Those little circles on crossguards. Also, if you have a Tino officer, get your head down real low in a mirror, and if you look up beneath the back of the swastika on the crossguard, if it doesn't have that little circle on it, it ain't real. I saw one today that ain't real. And it was almost perfect. So they're really making good stuff today. So if this is boring the hell out of you, I'm telling you, if you listen to a lot of this stuff, you can protect yourself, and because there's no substitute to knowing what you're doing. It took me 40 years to figure it out. I still don't know what I'm doing, but it's very worthwhile stuff. So, okay, let's move to the next one. Here we see the insides of crossguards. You guys all recognize those initials. The tops are the PAs. They were one of the biggest casting firms. And again, the companies weren't making these crossguards. These were privately owned casters that were doing all this and selling them to the companies. They had specific examples of that company's grip so that they could, for the most part, have them fit fairly well before they shipped them. PA was a company named Peel and Adley. Down the bottom is HE. Everybody knows what that is. House Eichhorn. Eichhorn was one of the few producers that actually made their own crossguards. They also used another producer that you'll see once in a while. AR, you'll see on them. The only time I've ever seen AR on anything else is on Hako, Berlin. They also used ARs. But you'll see Himmler daggers. Mostly they'll have the HE markings, but occasionally you'll see the AR. So when somebody sends one back to you and says it ain't real, tell them to go see Wittmann. And I'll tell them to go see Johnson. But no, that's so Eichhorn did use some subcontractors. Okay, on the next slide, when grips were made, this is a machine that, if you look at this point of the machine right here, the grip went in there and this thing folded upward. And see this saw here? That blade cut the square hole in the bottom of the crossguard for the tank clearance. You know what I'm talking about with that? And then a round hole was cut after that for the top of the tank because it's round. It was a very complicated process. And they also had a machine which was a duplicating machine that made the grip. And there were many, many grip makers that worked for many, many firms. But if you know the grips from certain firms by looking at them all the time, you will recognize them. They used the same supplier throughout. Like Hainel grips, J.P. Sauer, whatever, Wilhelm Kolber. Those grips are all made of walnut because they were in the gun business, and that's what walnut stocks are made out. But the grips are uniquely shaped. Asculate, those grips are, you can tell them a mile away, they're all varnished. I don't know how many Asculip daggers I've had returned to me. Oh, somebody varnished this grip. I don't want it. Oh, that was part of their process. That's what they did. Eichhorn grips are unique. They did make them in-house, but you get used to looking at them. They're unique. And this is another thing. If you learn what the grip shape is, boy, you can pick up a lot of phony baloney stuff that goes on. Okay, next, John. The types of woods that they used. There's quite a few of them. They use birch, plum, cherry, beech, pear, maple, oak, walnut also. The inlets for the runes button and the party eagles, they were milled the same way that the gun producers do with stocks and so forth. The final wood finishing was accomplished by hand. And if you look at this particular dagger, this is a pack dagger. And you can tell it's a pack dagger if you know what the cross guards are supposed to look like and you know what the grip shape is, because I know that's a pack dagger without looking at the maker, and you can too if you study this stuff. But what is so cool, look at that tiger stripe. I mean, that is absolutely beautiful. And you can look at 100 or 200 essays before you see something like that. And obviously somebody must have paid a little more money for their dagger in order to get that. And it's like a piece of furniture. Looks like a dashboard of a Rolls Royce or something. It just really, I mean, what a great thing to have a dagger with a grip like that. You can get up every morning and before breakfast, look at that baby. I'm telling you, I know it's funny, but I do. I just think it's wonderful. Okay, number 33. Talk a little bit about scabbards. Scabbard halves were stamped out. Steel, boom, stamp out each half, was welded together, and then the weld had to all be ground off and smoothed. Seelheimer, who we think of as a small manufacturer, we don't see a lot of things produced by Seelheimer. That's because they were too busy making 1 million scabbards, the shells. That was their big thing. They also made the mounts for them, the nickel, silver, upper and lower mounts. Seelheimer made a lot of that and probably sold it to 80 or 90% of the companies. Again, Eichhorn made their own. Another thing that, while I'm on scabbards, we always call it anodizing. I guess everybody knows that that word has absolutely nothing to do with what the finish is that's on an SA scabbard. Anodizing was a process that was strictly done on aluminum, and it permitted, the anodizing of aluminum permitted the metal to change color. Like a Felder and Hollow dagger has kind of a pinkish look to it. That's because it's anodized. SA scabbards were not anodized. It had nothing to do with anodizing. It was a process very similar to bluing, except it was the plum rich brown color. Then it was coated with lacquer. It was done through using salts also with the mixture. But as we know, it didn't hold up very well, and it was a costly process. And finally, it gave way to paint. But if you look on this impressive dagger, you guys know John Merlin. I don't know whether he's here or not, but he's a great collector. This is his dagger. And look at that beautiful finish on that dagger. And the reason for that is the dagger is a shooting prize, and probably the guy that received it, see there you go, Beste Schütze, 1938. The guy that got it probably thought, man, I'm not going to wear this. This is really cool. I'm going to put it home and hang it up in my kitchen and brag to my friends about it. So as a result, you wind up with a beautiful preserved finish like that. And that's what these daggers look like when they were new. So that's a good example of it. And you can see they even went through picking out a finer grip also to suit the piece. Beautiful grain in that grip. Okay, this picture just cracks me up. Remember I said you had to, after the blades were all cut off, then you had to grind them and you had to polish them. Okay? There you are, you're looking at a raw blade, and the boss says, okay, sit down here, and you're going to start the grinding process. There's 20 of these guys in this picture. It's another picture from TJ's books. They're all working at grinding wheels. You can see they got one light for 4 guys in this whole place. You can also see, look at this belt that's running right down the center between the two people. Can you imagine if you left your flies open or something? I mean, it just, forget it, what could happen to you there. Nobody's wearing any glasses or goggles. Nobody's wearing any, what do you call the face mask, none of that. Can you imagine if OSHA ever walked into a place like that today, what would happen? But also, I mean, seriously though, I mean, just imagine how many people got hurt trying to do this stuff. Imagine the bosses. We got a million of these things to do. Get going, get going, get going. I mean, it must have been horrific to work in one of those Soligan factories. If you also look real closely, it's kind of hard to see, but you can pick up that on the finished blades, there's a crossguard on them too. And I think that was because they tried to match the shoulders with the crossguard so that there wouldn't be too huge of a gap. Save work in the final finishing. But that's a terrific picture. And then, see, here's the extra grinding wheels up top and all that. Just murder. I couldn't imagine. And in those days, too, everybody worked 12 hours. Could you imagine doing that for all that dust and fine metal grain going into your face? So these guys really deserve a lot of credit for the beautiful things that they made, because, boy, they really worked to do it. So, these guys, incidentally, a lot of them were independent, and some of these guys had their own shops outside of their house and worked on that. I want to say, too, we talk a lot about cross grain all the time, judging a blade by the amount of cross grain. A lot of people think that cross grain was put intentionally into the blade to make it look nice. It was not. It's a process of leftover after the grinding process. They start with a coarser stone, less coarser, less coarser, less coarser, until it's a real fine stone. And what you see on the graining is what's left of it. You could theoretically have a producer that didn't want any grain in the blade, he wanted a full polish, and you will see SA daggers, they look mint and there's no grain in it. Oh, somebody buffed that blade out. Not necessarily. It may have been produced that way, taking all the graining out of the surfaces. Okay? All right. I know this is long, but it's stuff that, you know, a lot of people, they just don't have any idea how it was made, so I think it's interesting. The next process is etching, and what we're looking at here is an Eichhorn full room. It's got the early double proof on it, but it's an example of the beautiful etch work that could be done during the process. And what was, I mean, it's just unbelievable what they had to do to achieve this etching. The blade had to be warm, had to be clean, and then it was coated with beeswax. Then a template was put, if you're going to do a room, there was a template put on both sides, and the wax portion where the acid was to eat had to be scratched out of the template totally, and where the metal was exposed to the acid, that's where the etch would go. So, just imagine you didn't get all the wax out, you were careless, you put the template on crooked, and these are things that we see on blades where there are small mistakes like that, and people, oh, they never would have done that, that couldn't have happened, see that line, just think, again, 50,000 full room daggers were assigned to EPAC to be done in 2 months. How the hell did they do that? The process they did, I mean, just think about it. It must have been, and also acid, this is another problem too. Etch quality, it was determined by a lot of factors. By the strength and the temperature of the acid, by the age of the acid, by the intensity of light in the work area. Imagine somebody comes in and opens the drape, could screw up a whole day's work. You know, it could affect the etching intensely. So these kind of things probably cause the differences that you see in the depth of the etch, the darkness in the background, whether it's straight or crooked, all of these things. Okay, that's enough on making daggers. I hope you got something out of that. Next, we're going to talk about group of GAU, and really that's an incorrect term. A group mark refers to the area that a particular SA regiment occupied. A GAU is more like a little state province within Germany, and they often were not the same thing at all. So we should call them GRUPPE marks now instead of GAU marks. So we see these GAU marks, GRUPPE marks, and I'm saying it already, on the back of SA daggers, and most of them you see over and over again because they're very common. They were delivered to very large areas, but occasionally, and this is for guys that want to go on the cheap a little bit in the hobby, you can just collect GRUPPE mark daggers. That's really fun, and it'll take you a hell of a time to find them all too. Pieces like this, you see that letter OST, Ost? That was the grouping for Ost mark. And then above it, you'll see OM, that was the GRUPPE mark for Ostland. They sound the same, but Ostmark was a province of Grenzmark located in West Prussia near Poland, and Ostland is in East Prussia and Danzig, which were populated German territories, but there were not many party members there, SA members, so you do not see GRUPPE marks. See, I'm saying to myself, GRUPPE marks from those areas very often, and you come up with an Ostmark piece, and that'll bring a nice premium. It's a good thing to look for. That's another freebie if you're sharp, you know. Okay, on the next slide, let's see what we wanted to. Yeah, this is another one, BO over here. That was the group of Bayerische Ostmark, which was the area of Oberpfalz and Oberfranken. Not a high populated area, so you don't see many marks there. And also, the guy that was doing the stamping, I don't know whether he had too many beers, but you'll see it on one end sometimes, on the other end sometimes, and sometimes in the center. Here it's nicely placed in the center. Also, this guy from Hockland with the HO, I mean, that'll drive you crazy. You'll see them on the left side, you'll see them on the right side, you'll see them in the middle, you'll see them upside down on either portions of the plate, and all original. And the problem is that I just, for the life of me, cannot figure out when in the process GRUPPE marks were stamped onto daggers. They couldn't have been done at the factories per se, or you wouldn't see all the different places where they were stamped on the crossguards. The only thing I can think is that perhaps the recipients sent a representative to Zolligan and perhaps stamped their own GRUPPE marks on the daggers that were being shipped to them. I just couldn't understand if they were factory done that they wouldn't be uniform, especially with the German way of thinking. So that's something, if any one of you geniuses has ever figured that out, I sure would like to know the answer to that. Okay, we're going to move to the really rare stuff. This is a dagger that's owned by my good friend Larry Kalazzi. This is the one to get. You cannot find this dagger. I don't care if you look for 30 years. The OE mark. These are two OE marks. And every time you find it, it always has a serial number next to it. And they all seem to be made by Ed Wusthoff. So apparently the entire delivery was produced by Wusthoff. But you know what was going on there? The OE, of course, it stands for Österreich, which was Austria. And at that time, in the early 30s, the Nazis were pretty well persona non grata. In fact, in July 34, there was a kind of a coup that resulted in the death of the chancellor, a guy named Dollfuss. A few people lost their heads on that too. They chopped their heads off. So obviously, there was not a lot of SA people in Austria, but obviously they did have a true organization. So man, get out there and find those OE stamped guards. I mean, the guy that has it, he's not going to know that it's worth anything. So you can really pick up on something there. There's one more I want to show. Next one, John. There's a third one. This is owned by my friend Carl Gansberg. He's been collecting for many years, and somehow Carl stumbled across this. I don't know how he did, but there you are. And again, his example has the number stamped next to it. Okay, so much for that. Next we want to talk about trademarks. We see about 220 trademarks, but every so often there's one you've never seen before, and these come from a website called wardaggers.com. The guy's done a great job in cataloging all this stuff. And I think they're really interesting. Trademarks can tell something about the company or the lives or the culture of Germany. As a good example, Asculip, they were primarily a maker of medical instruments. And because they worked with metal, that's why they were one of the firms that were chosen to help with the SA production. So they used as a trademark the caduceus, you know, the crown with a snake around a staff, which was the medical insignia. And whenever you got a doctor as a customer, you can always sell him one of these. Oh, they go for them every time. It's a good product. They love those things. Another good one too is a trademark that's made by Herder and Son. It's called Diogenes. And I just love this because Diogenes, for those of you that may or may not know, he was a blind Greek philosopher, and he's depicted carrying a lamp because he was spent his whole life looking for an honest man. And I thought, wow, a lot of us have been through that in this hobby. Other good marks that are interesting too, like the WKC and the Anton Wingen. I mean, they depict you know, the armor type theme, and it, you know, it's the Teutonic Knights of the past inspiration. You know, Germans made all that stuff in the 1500s and the 1600s. Great stuff. The same thing with Pack, with the hammering Siegfried. Comes from the Nordic legend, popular Wagnerian operas. I just love that stuff. I like the Wagnerian stuff. And in the next slide, you guys know this one, Undine. Oh, what a great trademark that is. I love Undine, not because of the bare breasts, but I love Undine. And it's interesting too. This also goes to a Wagnerian theme. Undine were the mermaids that guarded the gold rings at the bottom of the Rhine in the opera series, The Rings of Nibelung. You guys know Little Wagner at all? Wonderful. I mean, if you're serious about the German history, it really is good to listen to some Wagner. Buy a few tapes, and it takes about 12 times, but after that you start to like it. It's really good, and of course they were the Fuhrer's favorites. So, but you know, at the same time, Wagner was operating in the 1860s, 70s, 80s. Franz Liszt was also popular. He was a pianist and a great composer, and lots of the background movie music you hear is Franz Liszt. But like everybody else that's competing, sort of, although Wagner and Liszt weren't competing, Liszt said of Wagner, "Listening to Wagner, one experiences an hour of boredom followed by 5 minutes of sheer genius." Sort of reminds you of dealing with Craig Gottlieb. So times haven't changed much. But I'm serious about it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to make everybody classical music fanatics, but it is really worthwhile if you can just get yourself to listen a little bit, and all of a sudden you'll say, wow, I like that. I mean, don't sit through the 9 Rings of Nibelung. It takes 7 days to do the operas. You just can't do that. But if you listen to the overtures, it's great. Okay, next stuff. The RZM markings will also show some of them just to show that they existed. And You see the RZM marks, the numbers assigned, the 7 meant that it was a blade company, and the 2 numerals after that, or 3 numerals in some cases, was the code name for the manufacturer involved. And if you wanted to make SA daggers, you had to be a member of the RZM. And we see them starting to come into play about 1937 or so. As I say, each producer had to be approved. Well, let's go into the next slide. We show the problem with the RZM was, Jesus Christ, we spent all these years with this trademark. Everybody knows us by this mark, and now you're telling us that you want to eliminate that mark and just put your RZM. Well, this is the baby on in Gemini. Everything has to be the same, no individual. So, as you can imagine, these guys, they had been in business in some cases 300 or 400 years, even longer, using the same trademarks. So they were really reluctant to give these things up. So, in the next slide, John, here we show the firm Klitterman and Moog, the spear in the arm. These guys managed to keep their trademark here along with their RZM number. But what's interesting about it, I can't see this too clearly, John, but these were made in different years, I believe. 39 is on one, and 41 is on the other. And if you look at the 2 etches side by side, see if we can see both of them, John. Can't? Well, you'll notice that their position is slightly different, and also the thickness of the etch on one is thicker than the other, which tells me that the firm got mad at the one etcher and changed etchers, just like we do today. Hey, the bastard won't take me out to lunch, you know? Hey, let's get another guy. The same things, business was done the same way. So these are 2 examples. There you can see it there. See that, how that's lower? Next one, John. This is interesting because it's M729. For you guys that have been collecting a while, you'll know that M729 was what we always thought of as the, what kind of SS dagger was that? Jacobs. We always thought it was, if we saw an M29, it was Jacobs. Actually, Jacobs, they did have M729, but they lost it in 1935, and Klitterman and Moog took it over. So it wasn't until a couple of years ago that we found out that all this time we thought Jacobs daggers were Jacobs daggers, and they weren't. They were Klitterman and Moog. So there you can see that M729, clearly a Klitterman and Moog piece. Next, John. There's a Jacobs dagger, and their new code is on there, which I can't see from here. You can close that up, John. There you go. See, their code is now 118, not 729. So that proves the whole business that I've been talking about. Next one, John. Here we have the Tiger firm. Again, they got mad at their etcher. They changed etchers. This guy was doing a double circle shaded in the middle. This guy figured, the hell with that, we'll just do a small single circle, save some money, put the code right next to it instead of underneath it, and it probably paid him to put the cat in a different position too. But it's interesting, you know, if you like daggers, that kind of stuff is cool. Next, John. This one, I just love this. This is so cool. Henkel's, you know, the twins logo. Here they're shown with the full trademark and the RZM code and the year beneath it. Apparently the RZM came in and said, look, you gotta cut this out. We're not going to go for this. You've got to do something. So they said, look, I'll tell you what. How about if we just put the twins here? It won't be as obnoxious. And apparently they got away with it. And that's exactly what happened here. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool anyhow, you guys. Next thing is Wilhelm Wagner, same kind of stuff, different positions, so they used a different etcher. Next one, John. This is the Anton Wind Gun firm. There's 4 years there going up to 1941. And what's interesting with them is they must have pulled the same con job as Henkel's did. Look, we'll just use this little tiny knight here. Nobody's going to even notice it. But yet it made them feel better because they were able to keep their trademark. See, 41, 40, 39, 38, this is when you first start to see these. Isn't that cool? See 4 years in a row like that? That's a rare sight. Next, John. Okay, and this one I love too. This is our famous Carl Eichhorn 1938 vintage. You guys have seen these trademarks a million times. 766, there's the date, there's the squirrel. Uh-oh, what happened? There's something missing. Where is the word original? You know how the Eichhorns always have original on the top there? In 1938 they didn't, and it's probably because they pulled the same ploy as Henkel's, saying, look, we'll take the original off there and then you won't notice our trademark as much. Because the following year it's just an RZM code. So you can see how, I mean, this was really important stuff to these guys. Okay, next one. Now we're talking about brigada numbers. I don't know whether we might even skip this section because we're running long. You guys care about brigada numbers?
Yeah.
Sure. You want to
Carry on.
You're not falling asleep? I can, you know. All right, we'll do it. What I'm talking about with brigada numbers, you'll see daggers. They'll normally be daggers that are marked NM from Nordmark and P for Pomerania. In these areas, which actually they were remote areas, Nordmark was up in Schleswig-Holstein. That was in the northern part of Germany, and Pomerania was probably what we call Poland today. So these were kind of crazy areas. My feeling is, and I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but my feeling is that, well, I'll talk about it in a minute, but this is a Ausweis. You know what an Ausweis is? It's an SA identity card. And for years we thought that the numbers that were stamped on these daggers that have brigades on them were probably the numbers of the man's Ausweis. This Ausweis was discovered recently. It's issued to a man named Klaus Nielsen, and the number on the pass, if you look, you may be able to see it here if I can make this. Here we go. See there it says Dolk, number 16, that was the brigade, and the number 15104. So we think, no problem, that's the guy's Ausweis number. So then you look on the next pager, and his Ausweis number is different. So to me, well, I still won't say what. Let's go on to some other ones. We'll see here what. This is the Brigade 14. It'll have the brigade numbers on it, followed by a serial number, and they also locked it into the scabbard. Where you see scabbards with the brigade with no number on it and the brigade numbers on it, they're probably mismatched. At least that's what collectors think. The collectors that have one that's mismatched, they don't think that. This is another one here. It's a pack dagger. You can tell by the cross guard and the grip. You guys are watching this. You know how to tell a pack dagger now? See, that's done a little bit differently, even though it's from the same brigade, but that tells me that they were either stamping these on themselves or they had some guy that was clever in a tent somewhere banging these numbers in. But there you go on that one. Give me another one, John. Here, this guy, he didn't even bother to get a die. He just kind of scratched it in here, and he did the same thing on the scabbard. 14 is brigade, that's the number. We still don't know whether it's an Ausweis number, a party number, his driver's license, I don't know. But there's the number. Give me another one. Okay, here's a Carl Eichhorn one. Same kind of thing, except Storm 1 is carved into the grip also here. So you can see there was a real profound effort to identify these daggers for some reason. Next one. Okay, here's 15. We went up from 14. This is the 15th Brigade. Here you see the Storm 1 again in there. I mean, that's a lot of work to really make sure that nobody's going to get your dagger confused. Next one, John. Here, I don't know what the hell's going on here. The guy stamped it on the front of the dagger, not the back of the dagger. So that tells you that there was no big straw boss that was in charge of inspecting these or whatever. And it's the same brigade again. This is 15. Both sides stamped on the front. And again, too, the rules specifically state nothing is allowed to be on the outside of a dagger. That was direct from Rome. But maybe he was dead by now, so who cares? Next one. Here we got another one that's amateurishly done. Next one. This is the 16th Brigade, more of the same thing. Same thing, except this is really nicely done. Look how good that is. It looks like a professional engraver did it. And he even made the numbers on the scabbard bigger than the ones on the crossguard so that it had a nicer artistic look or something. A lot of work went into that. So why is one so well done and others so sloppy? It's really crazy, this hobby, I'll tell you. Really hard to figure out. This is the same dagger we just saw, and it's a partial Rome. Incidentally, a lot of these Brigada marked daggers are Rome daggers. Next, John. This is Brigada 16, that Gustav Huss, people like them, the wolf. You ever see one of those wolf daggers? Very exciting to people. It's a great trademark. And one more, John. Another sloppy job. Look at this. I mean, it's really... Give me one more, John. I love this one. This is the reserve group out of Brigada 16. And what's so cool about this, you'll see that there's a number here, and there's a number here, and this baby's been crossed off. And on the scabbard, this baby's been crossed off, and the new number was added. So I think that this is the key to solving why these numbers are on here. It tells me that the numbers were definitely accountability numbers. Probably these were such small areas that the SA guys probably could not afford to buy their own daggers, and they were probably owned by the brigade, and they were issued to the man because of the number, and that'd be the only reason to account for a number being crossed out and reissued. So that's what I think they are. I might be all wet, maybe somebody else has thoughts, but collectors, oh, they just love to think about this stuff. They call me all the time, oh, Wittmann, don't you stay up all night wondering what these brigade numbers are? And I say, hell no, but if you want to, go ahead. But I mean, stuff like that, though, some people, they just love that kind of thing, and it would be great to have an answer for it. Okay, where are we, John? I only included this just because I thought it was so half-assed. If you see here, look at this number stamped up here on the crossbar. It's a reserve group of the 4th Brigada. And look what this jerk did with the 4 down here. I mean, you know, nobody could have been watching the ship here. It's interesting, though. I mean, you know, you see everybody, oh, the Germans are perfect. Hey, you see so many things like that. Next, John. All right, more of the same stuff. All right, let's go past these and... Yeah, stop on the Hippa dagger. I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah, this is a great piece owned by Harry Gold. He lives around this Hush Rush Road, wherever that is. He lives around here. Old Harry, he sent me pictures of this dagger, and it's kind of neat. It's got the guy's name on the front of the dagger, Paul Hippa, H-I-P-P-E. And then there's a number stamped on the front of the scabbard. Both engravings break the rules at the time, but there you are. And then Harry was able to research this baby. And here you can see there's Paul Hippa's name up there. And there's that number, the same one that's on the scabbard. And in this case, it's his SA number. So, are they Ausweis numbers? Maybe some are. Some are SA numbers. Some are probably unit, I don't know, but it's pretty neat when you can research something like that and really make your dagger come alive. In the back.
That's his party membership number. Party membership.
Thank you very much. Very good. Okay, next one. All right, do you ever see one of these daggers, these acorn plate, the panels? Tremendous things. They're really, really rare. They were only made initially, probably only in 1 year, only made by Eichhorn, and all of them have a shaded panel with the motto on the front, and the shading on the ends has the fleur-de-lis designs that is sort of an Eichhorn signature that we see on etch bayonet designs also. Let's see the next one, John. On the back of them, you could order them with anything that you wanted on the reverse. Let's see, plate 78, we'll see what this baby says. In Troja, Kameradschaft von Geithner. So von Geithner probably had somebody, they were good friends, and they more than likely exchanged daggers. Everything about it is Eichhorn. It even has the inspection number on the crossguard that we see on early daggers, you know, underneath the crossguard, 0 through 9, you know about that stuff. They always have the small oval trademark, which we always thought was mostly reserved for Rome inscriptions because it made the inscription look better to reduce the Fuhrer finally came to power, and they both helped in it, probably did a lot of marching, beat up a lot of people, rode around in trucks, made a big scene in these little towns. You imagine you got a little town of about 1,000 people or something like that, and 20 of these trucks pull up with 100 guys in each one and walk out, and they got Deutschland air. I mean, just imagine how impressive that must have been when the times that it happened. But it was a big deal, and so they memorialized it with each other with these kind of things. Okay, next one, John. Here's another panel, the next one. Plate 82, this baby, 20, this is interesting too. Now here's a presentation, and look at the date on it. 27 June 1934, Storm 33, Brigade 94. This baby was made 3 days before Rome was killed. Isn't that interesting? So there you go. Same trademark, the small oval. Next one, John. Now this piece belongs to my buddy. You guys know Serge Maché? There he is, back there. Hi, Serge. Beautiful dagger. This is probably the best conditioned panel dagger that I've seen, and I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, look at that baby there. Look at that scabbard. I mean, it is really, really nice. Let's see the other side, John. For Troja, Dienst, yeah, okay. And some guy named Gross. Again, they're two guys, bum mates, I hope not, but exchanging gifts. Okay, here we go. There's another one. This one's not in too good a shape. Give us back into that, John. Yeah, that's kind of cool. This was Meine lieben Kameraden folgt zur Erinnerung of March 1934. March 34 was a big year for the Nazis because in March of 34 they held an election that dissolved the Reichstag and Hitler became dictator. So it was really a big time. This was given by a Gruppenführer, I think he's a Standartenführer, Anstedt, I think his name was. And probably these two guys were really involved, maybe with the campaigning, and so they won. It was a great thing, and a dagger like this was a terrific thing to memorialize the event. Too bad it's not in better condition, but still, it is what it is. And these panel daggers, take it from me, I've only had 2 or 3 for sale over the last many, many years. I don't know, Tom, have you had a lot of them? No, you just don't see them. So if you run into that, that's a great thing. Even though it might be expensive, it's a great thing for an investment, a real treasure. One more, John. Okay, this one is cool. The picture is crappy, but what's really cool about this one, and a lot of you guys may not know this, but you know about the sports school Firth. We see that on SS daggers once in a while. Well, this one is for SA Sports Schule Firth. So they actually had a school sports school for SA also. It says it right on there. It's kind of hard to see on the blade, but what a rare thing. Wow. Okay, let's get rid of those daggers. Now we're going to go to personalized crossguards. You know, despite the rules for the SA daggers indicating there would be no visible outside alterations, many personalizations exist. You got 3 million guys out there. There's always 100,000 of them that don't listen. It's the way it is. It's just the way it is. So it would seem that, and even after the purge, probably the rules were relaxed. But anyhow, we see these personalizations. I mean, this guy really had nerve. He put his name and his outfit on the front of the scabbard, not even on the back. Made no attempt to conceal it whatsoever. And the name on there is Fritz Grimm. And the collector that owns it, his name is Grimm too. I wonder why he bought it. But a nice dagger. Give me another one, John. Okay, plate 89. This is a collector, Jeff Forker. This is a nice dagger. It's a prize for a rider standard. See how nicely that's all done? Aaron Prize, der Rider Standard 40. It's got something on the back too, John, I forget. Troya on Troya on the top crossguard. Loyalty for loyalty, you know. Nice. Nice grip on it too. This guy here, this was an event. Let's see, no, it's a, to the respected Sturmfuhrer Richard Kuhlmann, Sturm 16 Reserve Unit 4, for his time in Brockett in 1934. Brockett must have been a small town in Germany, and he was probably transferred or whatever, so it was given to him by his men. But a beautiful thing. Really, the engraving that they did then is absolute artistry, in my opinion. I love it. Give me another one, John. Here we go. You see this word a lot, scheidenden. That means you were retired or you were transferred. I could never figure out which one, but in this case, to our retiring Sturmfuhrer, and on the reverse, John, you can see that he was from the Reich Finance School in Bodenbach. And it's an RZM double-proofed piece also, so kind of neat. This was a great event. It was sponsored by Hess, and it involved, it was a sporting event that involved a pokal every year for the event. And the person that got this dagger won the Hess pokal. There's a big newspaper article about it and so forth too. And on the reverse, John, it gives, there we go, Stadt Heidenheim or something like that. Stadt Heidenheim. Just for fun, you see Stadt in front of the names of German towns a lot. And it's actually, it's a title. What it meant in the old days, in your town, you had to be able to do 3 things and you could become a Stadt. Number 1, you had to be able to protect the people. Number 2, you had to grant freedom to the people. And number 3, which I love, you had to be able to make beer. And that is what qualified you to be a Stadt. All right. Now we do a few dedicated blades. This is a nice thing. It's a double-proof tiger. The etching is very pleasantly done. It's thin and precise. It's a dagger owned by my old friend Howard Krause. I haven't seen him in a while. But the dedication says, "Stay loyal to your Führer, given by your Frau, Christmas 1938. Hey, you know, during the time, I guess you would have liked that. You know. So anyhow, I think that's a great dagger. Next one. This is one of my favorites. This belongs to Helmut Weitze. It's an Eichhorn. You can see that's that early Eichhorn trademark there, the large oval, and the etching is real deep and real black. And again, it's one of those cool things that they're congratulating each other. It means to fight means to be hard, and it's from the Signal Storm 1 Brigade 86, and this brigade was actually stationed in Erding. Erding was a little tiny town where Hitler had a real small airport. It was next to the Obersalzberg, and he used to land in there. So whoever owned that dagger, I'm sure, was well in with the powers that be at the time. Don't you like that etch, though? Isn't that great? Boy, it really jumps at you. The lightning bolt there, you see, that stands for signals. I'm sure a lot of you guys would know that. Okay, John, next one. This is one of my favorite pieces. This dagger is owned by Tom Johnson. What's so cool about it, you see the photograph. The photograph is of the party leader that presented this dagger, and the photograph is also signed by him. His name was Huff, yeah. But what's so cool about it, in the next picture, John, the dagger is presented to a woman. I mean, there's just no such thing as that, but here it is, and what's incredible, the title and the inscription, it says, Der Ortsgruppenleiterin. I-N at the end is feminine in German. So you actually had a female Ortsgruppenleiterin, a female Ortsgruppenleader. Her name was Ilse Haga, and Hoff puts on there, in Herzlinger Kameradschaft Meyer Hoff. She was actually the group leader in Zurich. So maybe because she was across the border, you could maybe get away with that, I don't know. I just never heard of any female political leader people. Does anybody else ever hear that? No. A very, very rare thing. Okay. This is a presented dagger that's kind of nice with a great etch on it. And it's from a guy named Schmidmeyer. You can pretty well see that. And a lot of times the Germans love to duplicate your handwriting on the etch. And that's what's done here. And the basic stuff in Herzlinger, Kameradschaft, Schmidmeyer, Stadelführer, 1 Motor Group 86. But very nice job. Next one, John. And this Schmidmeyer was kind of prolific because here we see him again. We do see a lot of the same names on these presented daggers because I think there were egos just like there are today. Some guys had more egos than other guys. So you'll see this kind of stuff. In this case, the guy that he gave it to was afraid to know him, I guess, because he had his name crossed off after the war, apparently. You can still see a little bit of the beginning of the presentation, which it was a Christmas gift. But anyhow, that's... what else is also interesting, too? Some of you guys have really studied daggers. Remember, I keep talking about crossguards? This dagger was made by Helbig. The only way we know that is because the crossguard is the only crossguard of all the 200 and some dagger makers that's made out of steel. It's magnetic, and it was chrome plated. It's the only one, and it's bigger than all the other crossguards. So that's kind of cool, too, since the name's not there anymore. Next one, John. This is a killer. You guys ever hear of Bob Fritz? Oh man, does he have some wonderful stuff. This is one of his etched daggers. It just is, it's as good as they come. You can see on there that it has the presentation in Herzlinger Kameradschaft Hermann Lobeck, made by Puma. And look at the killer grip on that. Give us a close-up of that shot, John. Look at that baby. Isn't that beautiful? Really beautiful. Great dagger. Another shot of it. Okay? There you go. Be hard to pass that one up, wouldn't it? Oh boy. Beautiful. Okay, this holds the record for the longest... I mean, can you imagine us walking into the etcher and saying, well, look, I want to have this done. I mean, it says, incidentally, they charged by the letter, so it must have cost a bundle to have this made. To our friend and comrade, Karl Siever, for 10 years of military work in the fight for the Third Reich, presented by the NSDAP Ortsgruppe of Dusseldorf Zoo. Zoo was an area in Dusseldorf, on 9 November 1935. So there you go. I mean, this Seifer must have been a pretty cool guy, because they've spent a lot of money on that baby, I'll tell you. Not in real good condition, but still it is what it is, and it's interesting. Okay, we'll do one more of these, and then we'll go to something else. This is a great dagger, a wonderful dagger. It's got a presentation on it. It's presented by, let's see if I have the actual, well, it doesn't matter, you can see it there. It's to our S.A. Kameraden, the Music Zeugs, in other words, the head music guy of the music club, of the band, of the Leibstandarte. Well, the Leibstandarte was the SS. Aha! But the man that this was given to, who was the leader of the Leibstandarte, was in the SA at that time and didn't go into the SS until a later time. So this was the SA dagger. Incidentally, it's owned by a very, very, very nice man, Kevin Bourgeois. You know that man. There he is. Wonderful dagger. The man who was the head of the Leibstandarte, his name was Herman Mueller John. This is a photograph of him showing him in his Obermusikmeister uniform. There's a problem with him, though. It's kind of a shame. The Leibstandarte band was coming into Poland while the Germans were busy with their 2-week occupation, and the bus that all the band was in stopped at a like a roundabout or something, and all of a sudden some gunfire came out of one of the houses and wounded several of the members and killed one. So like the SS did in Poland, they were very nice to the Polish people. They all got out and found out where the shots were coming from, and they captured all the men, and 50 Polish civilians were shot and killed over that. So what happened, if you remember history at all, Reichenau and also von Rundstedt, who were Army Wehrmacht generals, were fed up with the atrocities that the SS were doing to the Polish people at that time. And they actually formed a tribunal here and tried Mueller John, court-martialed him for the murders of the 50 Polish. So he was declared guilty, and what's really cool, you all know Sepp Dietrich. Dietrich complained to Hitler about the thing, and the Fuhrer signed a pardon stating, crimes committed out of anger caused by the way the Poles treated German people should not be punished. So there you go. I mean, that just, actually, poor Mueller John, it apparently ate away at him, and he did commit suicide at the end of the war, and supposedly it was out of guilt at what happened. But he had a hell of a band, I'll tell you. I really love it. You know that he introduced the saxophone to the Leibstandarte band to give it kind of a Benny Goodman sound or something, It's pretty cool stuff. All right. These two daggers you're going to see next are really cool. They're both EP and S daggers, and they were both presented by Karl Edward. He was the Duke of Saxon-Coburg and Gotha. He was also the president of the Red Cross. He was an NSKK and SA general. He was also related to the royal family in England, and he was not very welcome when the war was over, let me tell you. But he gave this dagger. It was given to a man by the name of Rudolf Krotterville, and it basically translates to, I don't have it here, but it's for the work that was done in the struggle, that kind of thing. The next dagger is exactly the same, only it was given to another person, his name being Edward Hansen. Fantastic pieces. Look at the amount of work that went into that and the delicacy of that etch. I mean, it's really fabulous. And one thing that's strange, both daggers have a Roman numeral 1 on the crossguard. Perhaps they were made from leftover parts, I don't know, but very interesting indeed. But absolutely original, beautiful stuff. Flip to the next one, John, and you'll see that's our friend there, the Herzog, Carl Edward. That was during the Imperial time, but I don't know whether he was a nice guy or not, but he got associated with the wrong group, and it didn't work out too well for him. Next one. Another etch here. I love this, the way the Gothic is done. I mean, it's just terrific, and it basically says, "To the friend of Germany, my loyal comrade J. Fischer Sturmfuhrer." Just a beautiful job. Next one, John. This I love. It's obviously a presented dagger. And you'll see the name down here. If we can, you've probably seen this name in, there you go. It looks like Halzer, H-A-L-Z-E-R, but it ain't. It's Mauser. And this guy in all of Fred Stevens's reproduction recognition book, he calls the dagger in there fake, but this came exactly from a veteran. You can see it's got plenty of age. It's for a ski competition, and certainly a real piece. Give me another one, John, and you'll see here's our friend Mauser again. He had a big ego. I got a couple of daggers in my own collection from him, and believe me, they ain't fake. So if anybody's got one of those, don't dump it. Don't take the blade out and put another blade in, and just keep it. It's a good dagger. Okay, next. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Rome. Are you dying? If you want, I'll stop it. Still okay? This won't take too much longer. I want to talk about Rome. Staub Chef Ernst Rome, in this picture, he's shown wearing his famous dagger, and unfortunately this dagger has never surfaced. I think it was probably destroyed, but you never know. Maybe somebody in Illinois will come to a motel by and it'll pop up, who knows. But it had the SS runes on the one end, the SA runes on the other. It had honor crossguards on both sides. And it looks like there was some kind of a raised out design on the scabbard upper portion. And if that's leather, look how it's fluted. I mean, it's really a sexy dagger. And the hanger is really cool. But anyhow, Rome's unusual personal life tends to loom large when he's discussed. But in all honesty, there was a great deal more to him than his sexual deviancy. Not that there's anything wrong with that. He was really a courageous soldier. During the Great War, he suffered many injuries and scars. And boy, you look at his face, it's a mess. His organization skills were supreme. He had a lot of disagreements with Hitler. Most of it, his plan to arm the SA, which Hitler didn't want to hear of. But prior to the 23 putsch, Goering was the leader of the SA, but he couldn't continue after the injuries that he got during the 1923 putsch. Remember, Goering was shot in the groin, and he had to hide out from the police, and no, it must have been a terrible mess. But anyhow, after Hitler's release from Landsberg, you know, Hitler was put into jail because of the putsch. The SA was reborn then. He was released in February 1925, and Rome's plan was to incorporate his Frontbahn, which was a veterans organization which he had formed while Hitler was in jail. He wanted to put that into the SA, and these guys were all armed. And Hitler and Ernst got into a real problem, and he said, "Get out of here," and Ernst said, "Okay, I'm going to Bolivia." And so off to Bolivia, Rome went, where he took a job training troops. And there was a man named Pfeiffer von Salomon who was appointed to the the essay after that. Well, everything went sort of well, and in 1930, Hitler won 107 seats in the Reichstag, which was huge because he only had 12 previously. So he could smell victory happening. And then at the same time, when he's about ready to get political victory, in Berlin they had this character, Walter Stennis. He was an essay leader, and he was kind of uncontrollable, and Hitler was in Munich, and Berlin was a long way, and Goebbels was kind of trying to keep this Stennis in line. He was another guy that wanted to arm the SA. So they wound up, they sacked Goebbels' office, and you can just imagine Goebbels on the phone with the Fuhrer about his office being wrecked, all this stuff. So Hitler said, okay, I've had it. So he figured that von Salomon can't control the SA anymore. And then in his notes, Rome wrote this little ditty in Bolivia. Then came a phone call from my friend Adolf. The voice was penetrating and laconic. I need you. And Rome packed his stuff and off he went and took over the essay again, which of course, as we know, was maybe not a good decision. So the disagreements with Hitler, of course, that it resulted in the purge on July 30th, 1934. So, of the 1 million initial orders for SA daggers, 100,000 of these daggers had to have the Rome inscription, and they had to be made and delivered before the standard daggers, because Rome wanted the older people to have the honor of receiving his dagger. So again, imagine the pressure on Zolligan to produce these 100,000 Rome daggers. I personally feel that since Eichhorn and EP&S were the sole producers of the prototypes, they naturally received the most amount of orders for the full Rome daggers. And EPS seems to be more than Eichhorn just by collecting them over the years. I've seen more EP&S. So I figure that EP&S had 50,000 full Rome SA daggers to produce in 2 months. Just imagine that. What do we got next here, John? Let me see another slide. I forget where we are. Yeah, here we go. This guy, Willie Albrecht. This is an SA Ausweis card. And what's next is really interesting. In order to receive the Rome dagger, you had to have proof that you were a member of the SA before December of 1931. So you had to have one of these cards that was signed by your boss, and that would go through the system, and that would entitle you to the full Rome honor dagger, which, as I said before, was free. You didn't have to pay for that. It was an honor for you. So those are the cards that were necessary. I mean, isn't that cool? Somebody coming up with those things. I mean, it just Doug Gow. You guys know him. He's from New Zealand. He turned these cards up, and I just think they're fantastic. See, it's signed by the Oberfuhrer here. This was the date that he was to get his dagger by. I don't know, if you read the whole thing, it's just really interesting stuff. All right, John. Here we have my old friend Serge again. Boy, he's got too much stuff in this lecture. I'll have to talk to him. This is a beautiful SA full Rome that was issued and found still in the original sack. You can see that the rubber stamping Wittmann is stamped on the front of the bag. That was so when they were distributing the daggers, they would know which ones had the inscription and which ones didn't. Just a great piece. Look at that baby. Give us a close-up of that, John. Look at that. See, it's got the early trademark on it. Absolutely stone mint in the bag. And when Serge bought it, he was in an auction, and all the other clowns in there said it was fake and didn't buy it. He picked it up for a song. See, they didn't come to this lecture, that's the problem. There you go, there it is again, beautiful dagger. Okay, what's plate 21? This is another room. This one has the smaller trademark. Is that an acorn too? I can't see here. Yeah, that's an acorn also with a smaller trademark. You'll see that one has a smooth tail. You hear guys talking about that smooth and serrated tail. Let me see another one, John. Next slide. Here you go here. This one, if you bring it up close, John, you'll see that that squirrel has a serrated tail. Now, if you take those two Rome daggers and you turn them over and put the motto part of the blade up and compare the two, you will find that the motto etches differ slightly. Eichhorn used 2 etchers to get these babies done. They were in trouble too trying to produce these. So that's a fact that most people don't notice. That's also true with Himmler daggers. You'll see the same serrated tail and smooth tail on Himmler daggers. And if you compare the two, the mottos are slightly different. 2 different etches. Somebody have a question out there? No, good. Okay, next one. All right, 123. Another choice Eichhorn dagger here. It belongs to, I think it belongs to Robin Hansen, I think. But it's a beauty. The only problem I have with it is that that scabbard fitting tells me it's a pack scabbard. Somebody switched it, but it still looks nice. Beautiful dagger. Okay, this one, 124, that's a Henkel's. J.A. Henkel's. They made beautiful things too. Great firm. All right, we're going to go through a few of these now. We're just going to show examples of full Rome daggers so that you get an idea of what firms made them. This is a Haenel. That's one of the Sewell companies. Look how dark the etch is. You know, you've seen plain Haenel pieces with just the motto on the blade, and it's real dark. Well, it should be the same if they made the Rome because it was put in the same bath of acid at the same time. So here's another one by J.P. Sauer. That they went along with Haenel. They were the same companies. Give me another one, John. Okay, here's an Anton Wingen. For some reason, Wingens, notice how delicate the etch is, much more so than others. You know, they probably had their own guy in-house because Wingen was a pretty big company. And that was the way he did it. That's the way the templates were. And this is the kind of thing where guys will say, oh, that's no good. Look how those are. Oh, it's too thin. They were never like that. Bullshit. When you see this stuff, this is what you want to look at. Give me another one. I can't read that. Who's that? Wusthof? Wusthof, yeah. That's a maker you don't see very often. Go ahead, next one. This one you hardly, that's the only one I've ever seen. Gebruder Bell. Gebruder Bell, sorry, getting old. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy Bell. I wonder how you knew that. What a genius, huh? Okay. This is the rarest of them all. Daniel Perez, you know, with the beer barrel. We all know about that beer barrel. They made a full Rome too. This is owned by a collector, Joe Gendell. I don't know whether Joe's here. Very serious guy. Next one. This is Werner and Longa. Oh yeah, this is a Gottlieb piece. Oh, that's past that. No, but they made one too. Here we have Aesculap, and of course what's interesting, Aesculap made the trademark smaller for the Romes so that the inscription would look neater. And you know how Aesculaps have that real black motto? Well, you want to see that real black Rome too, just like it. When you look at a Rome, keep going like this on both sides, and it should keep looking exactly the same. You want to see the same depth of etch, and you want to see the same color in the inscription. Go ahead, John, give me another one. These are the effort or the cross keys. You're not going to see that much, but it's a real dagger. Give me another one. Here's Gebruder Heller. What's interesting about Heller is They used a smaller trademark also to allow for the inscription to look better. Give me another one, John. This is a small trademark from Heller. Beautiful dagger. I just love this dagger. And this guy had it covered with ostrich skin. Really something. That's the F. Dick here. In case guys didn't think F. Dick made a dagger, a Rome dagger, they did. There's the proof. It's only a partial, but it's an outstanding real dagger. And they also moved the F. Dick down further to make the inscription better. Next one, John. This is another partial by SMF. Give me another one. This is SMF also, but the trademark is slightly smaller. So you'll see full Romes from SMF with big trademarks and smaller trademarks. It probably took them a while to make the trademark smaller. Give me another one, John. Okay. Here we're going to show what the producers did to allow for the inscription to be on the blade. In the case of Hanel, they moved it down some. See that? It's a partial. Same thing with Anton Wingen. See how the trademark is moved down further? Give me another one, John. Ah, there's the Heller difference. That's cool, isn't it? Give me another one. Ah, Asculum. Same thing. See how much smaller it is? Ed Wusthof, just slightly smaller, but still smaller. You know how hard it is to find these things in front of, I mean, you guys, this is hard stuff. You're not going to see this every place. Here we have Henkel's. No difference in the trademark. They just moved the mark down slightly. Okay. F. Dick, like I explained before, they moved theirs down. Everybody was wondering, gee, we saw a full Rome by Hanel and we saw one from J.P. Sauer. Gee, I wonder if Wilhelm Kolber made one. There you go, they did. There's Hanel's. They moved the trademark down. Okay. All right. I just want to wind up this thing finally with this. I don't want to make anybody mad or anything, but I hate this picture. I've been looking at this picture for 31 years, and I hate it. It's in the reproduction recognition book. And the purpose behind it for the author, his purpose was to state that the trademark of the EP&S Hammering Siegfried was so poorly done, the face looked like a pumpkin, in his words, that there's no way that the Rome dagger could be real. And man, for 31 years, people have been returning these things to me and returning them to everybody, and they go around and around and around and around. And it's really a shame for the hobby. I mean, I agree. We're going to show some packed trademarks. Joe Pankowski, you guys know Joe. He knows more about daggers than anybody that's living or dead. Well, not dead, but he knows a lot about daggers. Joe Pankowski and I, we got about 60 packed daggers together and looked at all the trademarks. Out of the 60 daggers, packed daggers, we could not find one perfect Siegfried trademark. And this is the kind of stuff that you see. Move on, John. Now here's one here. Give us a close-up on that. Look at this guy. He don't even have a face. Now, and there you are. You got your Rome dagger. Comrade Schaft, Ernst Röhm. What the hell is this supposed to be? And people just, they don't know what to think of it because, as we all know, Germans are perfect. Couldn't happen. Give me another one, Johnny. There you go. This guy's looking at somebody over on the right and he almost lost his hammer. His hammer disappears behind his shoulder. Look at this guy. That's the pumpkin, I think, that Mr. Stevens was talking about. Also, the P on that is way out of kilter with the rest of the letters. Give me another one, John. This guy's kind of looking right at you, and his hammer is all open in the back and hanging down further. And look how big the P is on that one. And he's got no boots on either. I mean, these are all, I'm telling you, these are all legitimate trademarks. And this is what you'll see on packed daggers. And just imagine how you're going to feel when yours is a full room and it's got this trademark. Look at this, there's no face at all. And on and on. You'll never find a pack that is perfect. That was not bad there. That's a round room, you can see with a feature. But that was not too bad. It really isn't. That's about the best that you'll see. Now here's a conventional EP&S full room. You can see the trademark, no face. I'll bet I send that out to 10 collectors, and I'll bet you 9 of them will send it back to me and tell me it's no good. You'll also, if you look on the trademarks, or not the trademarks, the inscription, you'll also see variants in the letters. You can see this is how normally you see the cross T on the rooms. Give me the next one, John. I thought there was another one. Go back once if you would. Yeah, here we go. Here's how you usually see the T. Now give me that other T. See that? Completely different. Oh, that can't be a real dagger. How could that happen? That's impossible. Well, again, 50,000 Roman inscriptions to make in 2 months. Putting wax on the blade, scratching the wax off on the template. Can you imagine the boss yelling at everybody? The temperature in the room might have been a little higher or a little lower. Somebody opened the window and let too much light in. They made 100 blades with the same solution of acid instead of changing it after 75. I mean, we're all human, even the Germans. So these kind of things happened. And what we have to do in this hobby is stop all this cookie cutter crap all the time. I get so sick of it. This doesn't look like the one that's in Johnson's book. I mean, you guys all got a brain on your head. Everybody can think a little bit. And the hobby is sophisticated enough that we shouldn't be looking at that picture that I hate and taking something from it and running your hobby by something as silly as that. I mean, it just doesn't do the hobby justice. And that's really all I got to say.